you may or may not heard, we have a release date, and it's a lot sooner than we had all expected. Arda, Tyler, Emily with you. Tyler, you actually had a chance to speak with the developers, the executive producer. That article is up right now at espn.com/esports. In advance of this major announcement, we heard that June 2nd is going to be the release date. What did you take away? You talked to them for a while. What did you take away from the conversation?
Yeah, so, I mean, let's just be transparent here. I've known about the June 2nd release date for about a month, and as we've gotten closer to it, I was like, at first, I was like, okay, this is going to be soon, but, I think it'll be fine. The game's doing really well, Twitch viewers are great, player base seems really engaged, they're fixing issues really quickly, and then as we've gotten closer to the date, I've kind of been a bit more worried, where it's like, even I've had some FPS drops, I've been vanguarded, which is now a verbiage, a term that's being used in games when a player disconnects because of Vanguard kicking them out and needing to restart your computer before you can play it again. So I went to this interview with Joseph Ziegler and Anna Donlin, the two lead developers on Valorant, and I was pretty forefront and very upfront about it. I was like, why June 2nd? Like, this game felt like you could have waited until July, maybe even August. The game's great. I bought a new computer for this game. I play it every day. I talk about it endlessly. I'm watching all the events. I'm watching streams. But it felt soonish. And I think we can all agree it felt soonish because you have people talking about FPS drops and performance issues. And their retort to that was, they want this game to go to the rest of the world. June 2nd was always going to be the release date from the very beginning. They haven't pushed it back. They haven't pushed it forward. And for them, they want a starting point because this is a game that is going to continuously evolve throughout. This isn't like The Last of Us Part 2 where when that's shipped, if there's something majorly wrong with the game, that ruins everything, right? Like, it's not easy to fix that game. Where in Valorant, they expect to be fixing and tinkering with this game for the next decade plus. So they want a start point where if there's FPS issues, which they are working on and they want to have fixed by launch, they will be continuously and aggressively working on it. This team has over 100 developers. I believe it's close to 200. So this isn't like Counter-Strike where you have 3 developers working on CSGO at a single time. So for them, they just want a start point to start everything going because they want to get it into the hands of as many people as possible so they can fix these problems when they prop up. Oceania is getting the game. Japan is getting a server. Hong Kong's getting a server. Most of APAC is getting a server. Really, the only major region that's not getting a server on June 2nd is China, and that's mostly due to it needing to be regulated by the government. Mm-hmm. Tencent, obviously, owns Riot. They're huge in China. They want this game to be huge in China, so it will come out in China and they will push it big, but it won't be out for June 2nd.
Safe to say that it will come at some point in China.
Oh, obviously. I mean, I would be surprised.
I think the important thing to stress here, just as someone who follows Chinese esports, is that it's something that happens really frequently. It's why League of Legends sometimes there's a patch behind in China because they have to get it approved. And to Tyler's point, this is not a slight against China. No. They're just trying to get it through as soon as possible. Yeah. And the Tencent will be able to get it through, for sure.
So we're going to get a new game mode. We're going to get a new agent. We've seen the agent's foot in a graphic. We also are going to get new skins. So there's going to be a lot, and you can see it right there on the very right of that graphic there. So we are getting some new additions.
Yes.
At launch itself, Emily. Why don't is that enough in your opinion? I mean, I guess there's going to be a lot of new players who haven't played this game. They aren't part of closed beta. For someone who has played the game as much as we have, what do you think of the offering going into launch?
I mean, I think it's pretty exciting, honestly. I mean, so at first, I still have some of the same reservations that Tyler had mentioned, right? Where this is a really quick launch date. To the point we were just talking about, they could have held off until they could get the game through in China and done a full bang huge blowout release with every major region, right? But I don't mind the fact that they're going off of the immediate success that they've already seen. through, and I know we're going to bring this up in a bit, but like, I think the drop system worked really, really well to launch this game, to get people super excited about it in an organic way that didn't involve money changing hands, which is actually like really impressive. And I don't blame them for wanting to launch this as quickly as possible. So while I guess like the thought process is like people would think maybe there's not enough, this is still going to seem a lot like a beta. I think it will to some people, especially people who have been like spamming the game. But to that point, I also think that like we say this on the show every week, or I say it on the show every week. I feel like a broken record. I think we haven't even seen the beginning of like the depth of what you can do with this game strategically. I think the only like major criticism that I have as like an outsider looking at how people are playing would be maybe the maps are a little bit boring. And I honestly don't know like how you would go about fixing that because of the way abilities work, because that's actually like by design sometimes.
Other than announcing they're adding a fourth map at launch.
Yeah,
sorry, I should have mentioned that as well.
Yeah, you did. You did. You said a map and
I did.
and
Okay,
a new
pardon.
agent. Yeah. Which I mean I think that's honestly enough for people who have been playing it for a while, and then you can just kind of continue to build and coast off of the success. This is going to seem like a lot softer of a launch than something like Overwatch, for example, where they came out and they were like very rigid about, we're launching this, we have a franchise system in a year, we're doing all of these World Cup event like region by region, and the finals were at BlizzCon that year. So I think like they do want it to be softer, and that does mean that it might not seem as like, whoa, super massive. I feel like we kind of already had that moment with the open beta, to be honest. So I mean, I like it. I like that we're getting this new content to dig into for those of us that have been playing through the open beta. And I think for people coming in, it's not going to be so much stuff going on that it's overwhelming, right? Especially if they're coming in from the League of Legends side and have not played a tactical shooter like CS before.
That's a good point. Just the idea that it will have an easy point of entry. There aren't too many agents, right? There's going to be 11 agents, I believe. So there's not too many that it's going to be overwhelming. That's a very good point. So like it's a very manageable game for somebody who's coming in for the first time, who was not part of the closed beta, to be able to experience this. It's in thinking about it, actually, I really like that point. Like I think it is the right sized game, right? I think it's the right sized game for a new player to pick up. I think that it has enough meat to it such that there's enough to discover, right? And enough to enjoy for probably 30 or 40 hours before you start to wear out of it, right? Which is a fair amount of time. And probably by that time, players get to that point, we're probably going to see new things in the game anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point that they talked to me yesterday about, is that they want a consistent content pipeline where it's not going to be some games where you go 6 months without any new developments. They want a continuous, flow of skins and missions and contracts and battle passes and agents and maps and game modes. They want this to be something where every few months there's something to look forward to. There's events, just very similar to League of Legends, where you have, maybe 4 to 5 new characters a year, new game modes, new events, new skin events similar to that. So I am cautiously optimistic about it. I mean, one of the big things that I wanted to talk to them about was the rank system, which I think is another sticking point for a lot of players going into launch, where they want a better rank system, where right now, I agree with this too, because as someone who's coming this from the esports side, where I am watching Corey, and I'm watching Sinatra, and I'm watching Shazam, and I'm watching these players, watching, Player One, who are all, Valorant, Immortal 3 players, I want a leaderboard. I want to know who the best Sage player in the world is. I want to know who the best Breach player in the world is. I think, in terms of Breach, Hiko's the best. But I want the actual data, right? I have the pro games to look at, the few tournaments we've had who are, semi-serious or serious tournaments. I can see from that, like, oh yeah, Hiko's the best Breach. But I actually want, because, Charlie 5, 6, 7, I see a lot of names, in the Valorant ranking who are total unknowns, and we have no real stats on them, no real things that we can really look at that and compare them to the the more relatively known names. So I talked to them. I was like, is there going to be a leaderboard system? Because I want a leaderboard system. People want a leaderboard system. People want better tracking and stats of how they're progressing. And they did agree that ranked is not perfect. It's not going to be like this forever. That by launch, it probably won't be. I don't believe launch will. I mean, at launch, ranked will be enabled. It might take a few days to a week or 2 weeks for game not just go full into ranked. But I feel like by the end of summer, we will have a much different ranked system. If not ranked system, a different way of tracking things. Yeah. And I think that's what people want, is that they want the leaderboards, they want the progression, they want a better ranked system, and it's right? Like, this is a 200 development team. This is a group of people who are listening to the community and want to have this game grow with the community, and that's why the second game mode is in beta, right? Where the second game mode is totally a test mode. They want to see how players react to it. If it sucks, they're going to cut it and go to something new. If they like it, they're going to progress with that and make it better. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I still think they could have waited until July 7th or the end of July or whenever China gave the thumbs up to have a full-on blowout release. But I'm going to trust them, because so far they have almost 3 million players playing daily, and that's now. Impressive. That's 2 months into beta, where they have 3 million players around the world, excluding China and Oceania, playing this game, which is incredible.
And think about how thankful we are whenever release dates get bumped up, especially in these extraordinary times, right? So I'm sure there's a lot of people who have wanted to get their hands on this game and haven't been able to get into the closed beta, saying, thank goodness it's sooner than later. I'm going to be able to enjoy this game like everyone else. Maybe I have a friend or two that's already in the closed beta. So the game will officially release on June 2nd. And I know in esports, we love our announcements of announcements. So I will say this, on June 1st, here on our ESPN Esports Twitch channel, we're going to have a lot going on. Believe me when I tell you, there will be a lot going on. That's all I'm going to say for now. But keep your eyes peeled. Follow us on Twitter as well, ESPN_esports, for perhaps some upcoming announcements. June 1st, here, twitch.tv/ESPN Esports.